Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Eric Johansson, a teacher with LSAT Demon. Joining me is Nathan Fox, one of the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. Nathan, we got an email from Dion who boldly called on us to critique his email that he has written in. So maybe we'll see if listeners find this useful.
All right,
but we'll do a little live editing.
Let's see what he says. First, I want to say thanks for being critical of the grammar and context of these emails as you read them on the show. Some may find it pedantic, but I find it both refreshing and helpful to hear others making such meaningful corrections that are meant to improve communications to be more concise, organized, and most importantly, convey the intended message. I understand and expect my inquiry to be similarly scrutinized and welcome it, because it will provide a learning opportunity to further improve my communications. So, thanks, and please keep it going.
Any thoughts so far?
I stopped doing so much of that because I really did feel like I was being pedantic and like I was being a dick. So, I thank you, Dion. I'm glad you like it. I don't know. I'm mellowing out as I get old, and I'm trying to be nicer to people. I understand that people don't sit there and like hyper edit an email that they're sending into some podcast. So I don't know. I'm not as worried about it anymore.
All right. Well, I'll be pedantic on your behalf. Okay. Cut that entire first paragraph. Just like, or make you're writing in to ask for advice on how to make your email more concise. We'll get rid of that first introductory paragraph before
make
you
it a sentence or two,
sure,
if nothing else. Like, you can keep the idea, but one thing I noticed is you said critical of the grammar and context. What do you mean grammar and context? I don't understand what you mean by and context. You do that a lot, Dion, in your writing. You say, I find it both refreshing and helpful. Can you just pick one?
To be fair, these are pretty high level these are pretty granular edits, I would say.
Sure.
Otherwise,
he's asking me to do it, so I'm doing it.
Yeah. There are no glaring red flags or like grammatical issues or anything. You're a fine writer, Dion. So we're just being hypercritical because you asked for it.
Yeah. I noticed in the first sentence you said critical of the grammar and context of these emails as you read them on the show. You probably could have just put a period after as you read them, because we obviously are reading them on the show. You also could have just put the period after emails, because where else are we reading these emails except for on the show? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it can always be cut. I mean, I look at this email, I just look at the bulk of it, and I go, this could have been half as long without losing any of the meaning. Mm-hmm. So that's my number one tip for writing, Dion, not just for you, but for literally everyone, is you're too wordy. And this applies to me too. When I write stuff and like, I have to force myself to make it shorter, or else it will be too long, always. Yeah. And that's, on a first draft, it's going to be too long. People think it's funny. We grew up like writing essays in 7th grade where the teacher said it was like, okay, you have to write at least 2 full pages or whatever it was. And then it was like, okay, how big can I make the font? How small can I make how narrow can I make the margins?
Can I include a really long quote to take up some space?
Right. Double spacing. Let's make it 2.5 spacing, let's indent the quote so that it takes up even more room. We grew up like writing first drafts that weren't long enough and then having to pad them. Mm-hmm. That's not how adult writing works. Adult writing, you're going to write first drafts that are way too long. You're going to go through and edit it. You're going to cut some stuff, but you're probably also going to add some stuff. You're going to go through again, hopefully, and cut it. And then you're going to go through again and cut it. You can always say in fewer words what you're saying in more words. One more thing about the first paragraph. Do you notice how long Dion's second sentence was?
It's long. Do we have a word count on that sentence?
I think Google Docs doesn't have a word count.
Tools, word count.
At least it doesn't.
38 words in that
38
sentence.
words, Dion, in that second sentence. I learned it as 35 words was like a hard max.
That's already too long.
I prefer like 30 words, 25 words. We want a mix of short and long sentences, which Dion does nicely. In the last sentence, Dion says, thanks and please keep it going.
Yeah.
Short sentence there, 7 words. That's great. So you've got a mix of short and long, which is great. But the long are too long. You got to cut that down. Keep it shorter. Give your reader some room to breathe. All right. And let's get to Dion's actual questions. Or do you have something else?
Just one more, I guess, selfish point, because I'm the one who reads these emails and puts together the show agendas. You, dear listener, are more likely to get your email on the show or a response from me if you keep it shorter. I hate to be honest, but there are some emails that are just really, really long, and I don't have the time to read them.
It was rough back in the day when I used to read all of these emails. I think for the first 8 years or something like that of the podcast, I read all of these emails. Maybe 6 years, and then it's been passed along to a couple different folks. But now, thankfully, Eric, you're reading the emails, and I don't have to go through the raw feed. But yeah, no, totally. The emails are too long, and they just don't get to the damn point. Mm-hmm. What's your question? What's the topic of this email? Mm-hmm. Okay, but now we're going to get around to it. Here's Dion's questions. Mm-hmm. All right, I have 2 questions for you. First, I have always had an interest in becoming an attorney since I was young. Okay, you could get rid of since I was young. If you have always had it, then that includes since when you were young. I've always had an interest in becoming an attorney, period. But I somehow managed to delay pursuing it until the ripe old age of 39. Okay.
That's not super old. I mean, you're inviting, I get it. It's some self-deprecating humor, but
I was going to dunk on his writing there. Never say ripe old age of 39. Just say 39.
Cliche.
Yeah, that's a cliche. What are you doing? Okay. I'm now at a point where I can confidently make a career change into law. I'm preparing to register for one of the LSAT Demon plans to help prepare for the LSAT and to strategize a date to take the first live test. I can dedicate 2 to 3 hours during the weekdays to studying. I could increase that time to around 4 to 5 hours on weekends. So I'm looking at around 21 to 25 hours a week of dedicated learning and study time. You could just say study time. Mm-hmm. He uses and way too much. Instead of one thing, he always tries to get 2 things in there, and it weakens. It just pick one. Mm-hmm. Do you recommend a particular plan based on this amount of availability? You could have just said based on this availability. There's many words, Dion. You could cut easily half of the words out of this without changing one bit of the meaning. And I learned this in journalism school. I have a master's in journalism, which I thought I wanted to be a sports writer. Weird backstory, just casting about, trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do with my life in my 20s. And I had a great editor there. One of the professors edited my stuff, and she would it was kind of infuriating, but it was also super helpful. I would get my pieces back from her, and the bulk of her edits, she always used a red pen, and it would be brackets around things that could be cut.
Not even cross through. It would just
cross through would have been
entire.
would have done the same thing. But what she was illustrating a cross through makes it so that you can't read it anymore, or not as easily. The brackets meant cut this, and she was able to go in and cut words without changing the sentence.
Yeah.
Didn't have to add a word, didn't have to rearrange anything, didn't have to change anything at all. Just, hey, these words don't add to your sentence.
Yeah, there's a lot of redundancy in the way we say things. And I feel like it's a very natural. I feel like when I write in a redundant way or speak redundantly, which is all the time, I think it's probably motivated by a fear that I'm not making myself clear enough. Let me just say the thing multiple times so that it's clear what I'm saying. I'm actually getting my point across. Natural fear that you want to try to correct. But yeah, trust that if you pick the right words, we understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. Want to answer Dion's first question? Basically, what plan? I have 21 to 25 hours a week. What plan?
Yeah, we recommend most people try out live if you can swing it. A month of live, you've got 4 or 5 live classes in Zoom per day. Not that you should go to all of those, but picks a couple teachers who resonate with you, a couple classes that work for your schedule, and we can get a lot through to you in 1 month of live classes. And if you love it and you can continue it, great. Or you might feel like, sweet, I've picked it up. I understand your approach to the test. Now I'm good to scale back down to do premium or basic and put in some self-study. That's kind of what I did. I went to some classes early on and then realized, hey, I got to a point where I get it. My time is most efficiently spent on my own, drilling, reviewing my mistakes. So that might work for you. But I would consider starting with a month of live and scaling back from there.
2 things. One, you can always change plans. So start with live. If the live classes aren't working for you for whatever reason and you want to downgrade, you can easily downgrade. You don't even have to wait for the month to be up. Just email our help team and they'll help you change plans. No problem. Actually, you can probably just change plans on the plans page and no problem. But if you have any problems at all, help at LSATdemon.com, world's greatest customer service team. They will sort you out. No problem. And do a prorated thing and whatever. You're not going to lose money by doing it that way. So that's number 1. Start with live, then reassess. A lot of people who start with live end up continuing with live because they love the live classes. Other people are like, okay, I got it. Thank you. You know, I've learned how to approach the test and I've learned how to efficiently self-study. Now I'll go self-study, which you can do with premium or basic plans. 2, people out there are going to be going, well, of course you're recommending live for Dion because live is your most expensive plan. But I want to point out that we are not recommending one-on-one tutoring. One-on-one tutoring is by far the most expensive thing you can get yourself into. And I want to tell you that if you're wondering whether someone is just in it for the money, one of the surest signs of that is if they try to sell you private tutoring right off the bat. We actively try to talk people out of private tutoring because we know that LSAT Demon is so good that if you just do one of our subscriptions, whether that's live or premium or basic, if you do any one of our subscriptions, we are confident that you will be successful. We offer tutoring for people who insist on it, and sometimes it might make sense to put the finishing touches on your score. But unless you're ultra wealthy and the money is literally no object to you, we actively try to talk people out of tutoring and instead into one of these plans. So Dion, for your 21 to 25 hours a week is a lot. And with that amount of time, you could come to some live classes, you could drill, and you could do timed sections, and you could thoroughly review all your mistakes. And I would recommend 1 month of the live plan, then reassess.
I think I've been getting better at talking people out of it.
Yeah, your success rate recently is awesome.
Yeah, I think I used to bat about 500 talking people out of tutoring, but I think I'm doing a little better than that recently.
Yeah, good. I'm just not. I want to help people, and of course, it's my business, and I want to be successful in business, but I do not feel good about trying to soak people for the maximum. Selling them huge tutoring plans. I mean, unless they really insist on it, because I just think we can help you for a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say on your first question, Dion, 4 to 5 hours per day on the weekends sounds a bit much. It could be. Maybe if you break it up and do that in multiple sessions, but like a dedicated study session where you sit down and just grind for 4 to 5 hours, I think for most students, you'll find yourself getting a little sloppy by the end of that if it's just like one long block of study.
Agree. And we've seen students be plenty successful with 1 high quality hour a day. I mean, if you do an hour a day, you're going to be making progress. If you do an hour a day in the gym, you're making progress. If you do an hour a day on the LSAT, you are making progress. If it's a good hour, if you go goof around on your phone and chat to your buddies all the time at the gym, then an hour a day is not enough because you're not doing anything. But if you get in there and work for an hour, that's like probably too much. And if you work for an hour on the LSAT, you should be feeling those clicks. You should be feeling like you're making progress. And I know that if you do that for a few weeks, you are going to have progressed in your understanding of the test. So Dion, I would look for 1 to 2 high quality hours every day. Make sure that that's a sustainable practice. Then think about potentially expanding it to hour 3. But hour 4 and hour 5 on the weekends, I don't know how long you can keep that up. And I just wouldn't probably
Yeah,
be
just
my
be honest.
recommendation.
Be honest with yourself about where you're at mentally during those study sessions. And it's going to fluctuate from day to day. Just check in with yourself, be honest about how sharp you
Yeah,
are.
my hypothesis would be that you're getting about 50% of the value out of your 4th hour that you got out of your first hour.
Yeah,
You know,
probably. Yep.
So then is it worth that time, or should you spend that time going to the actual gym, or should you spend that time with your friends and family, or should you spend that time cleaning your apartment or whatever?
Or sleeping.
Or sleeping, which is critical, which people always forget about.
Yeah.
For your health, physical and mental health, for the literal function of your brain, you have to sleep, and there's just no substitute for it.
It's life's cheat code.
It will change your mood. It will change your relationships. It will change how you physically feel in your body. There's, so many reasons to make sure that sleep is your priority. Listen to the LeBron James podcast. There's a LeBron James podcast on the Calm app where I don't know if you can get it for free. I think probably you can.
Yeah.
But LeBron talks about how he rearranged his life to make sleep be the first thing that he does every day.
Yeah.
He considers that to be the beginning of his day, is his sleep.
Love that.
And, and then it's like, oh, okay, wow. If that dude who's going to be an elite performer in the NBA for 20 goddamn years or whatever it is, he's doing it. Maybe I can do it.
Now we're going on a tangent, but similar. I remember reading I don't know if it was an ESPN article, maybe something about mental acuity testing that was done on NBA athletes, comparing beginning of the season to the end of the season, and how your average NBA athlete had mentally aged or was testing at an age that was like a decade or more older than they actually were from the beginning of the season to the end. And it was the hypothesis was it's because they don't sleep enough. Obviously really strenuous workouts, and they're finishing a game. They're finishing a game at like 10 o'clock at night, and then they got to hop on a plane to fly 600 miles away, and then they get in at 3 a.m. and then they play in another day.
Changing time zones, unfamiliar locations, in and out of hotels all the time. Yeah, it is crazy what those. Oh, also they're at like going out to dinner after the game, partying too much. It's like, oh, well, we just finished a game and we don't have our next game for 3 days. Yeah, I know, but you also have to change time zones, and you're going to go out and party till 4 a.m.
We're in Miami, you know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right.
Dion's second question. Next, my goal is to attend a top 50 law school. Assuming I can successfully score in the high 160s or better on the LSAT, I am left with the challenge of my GPA from undergrad. I graduated almost 15 years ago with a GPA of 2.85. This was entirely due to one bad semester where I simply dropped the ball on being a responsible student. Well, no, it wasn't, Dion, because you didn't literally get straight A's in every other semester.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I could do the quick math on that, but I don't think that if you had a 4.0 for 7 other semesters, even a 0.0 for one semester, I don't think lowers you all the way down to 2.85. Pretty sure. Well, let's see. 4 times 7 is 28 divided by 8 is 3.5. So yeah, no, Dion, it was not that one semester. It was not entirely due to that one semester. It was you were an okay student in lots of your other semesters, and you had one really terrible semester. Long story short, though, Dion, it doesn't matter. It was 15 years ago. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. You can't change it. You can't really do anything about it. I know you're going to talk about writing an addendum or whatever, and we'll get into it. And yes, you can. But it's not going to move the needle, really. I mean, the thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to apply as a splitter. You need to apply with a better LSAT than the medians at whatever schools you're applying to, because you're GPA is going to be below the medians, and you writing the world's best addendum doesn't change that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was able to recover from that semester, and my transcripts reflect that I took on more coursework in succeeding semesters that resulted in higher grades, including making the dean's list. However, the university I attended did not allow for grades to be replaced if you repeated the course and scored higher. Well, good news, neither does LSAC.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get a nasty surprise when they apply for law schools because they their school, if you got an F then an A, they drop the F and just give you the A. LSAC doesn't do that. LSAC, when they recalculate their GPA, they give you the F and the A.
Yeah, they do not honor that academic renewal, which is kind of shady that the schools will try to sell you on that as a way to revitalize your GPA.
Well, they just want to keep you in school.
Yeah.
We offer academic renewal, so you can graduate with a higher GPA on your college transcript, no one's ever going to look at it except for grad schools. And at least as far as law school admissions is concerned, that doesn't happen. You got the F. It's on your record.
Yeah.
Anyway, so instead of spending more resources on repeating the courses I originally scored poorly in, I chose instead to focus on completing the required coursework and graduating. How badly will my low undergrad GPA impact my chances of securing a spot in a top 50 law school? Should I instead focus on attending a regional law school, obtain a stellar GPA, and attempt to transfer to a top 50 law school after a year? Ooh. If transferring is the best option, should I focus on getting into a regional school now instead of trying to secure a higher LSAT score? Thanks for your help. Respectfully, Dion. A lot there.
Yeah, I would say transferring up can be pretty competitive. People do it. It's not impossible, but I think our advice has always been, don't go to a law school that you wouldn't graduate from. You can try to transfer out later, but there's no guarantee it'll happen. What is it that gets you to transfer out? Your 1L grades, right? That's what schools are primarily looking at.
It's your 1L grades, and it's just really rare. I mean, let's look at a random top 50 law school. Okay. Washington University, located in a beautiful University of Washington, sorry, not Wash U in St. Louis, but University of Washington School of Law, located in a very beautiful place. I assume that University of Washington Law School is on the University of Washington campus. Spectacular place in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, their median LSAT is 3.74. Their median GPA is 3.74. Their 25th percentile GPA is 3.57. So you're way, way, way below the 25th percentile at a school like that. So, they're only admitting you if you have an LSAT for sure above their median 164.
Mm-hmm.
And or they're going to try to charge you full price, which is a bigger issue.
Yeah, last thing on the 509 on page 4, you get your transfer info.
Did they have no transfers in?
They had 3.
I don't see it.
They had 3 transfers in.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I thought there was a list of schools. Maybe they only list them if there are more transfers. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that school had 3 transfers out and 3 transfers in. And
out of 181 in the first year class?
Out of 181 1Ls.
Yeah.
Gives you a sense of what you got to do. I mean, you've got to go crush it at whatever school and then apply for transfers. And then when you do apply for transfers, then they're guaranteed going to charge you full price because they know that you're starting law school at some shitty school. You're trying to improve the reputation of the JD that's going to be on your resume. You're transferring up. Why would they ever give you a scholarship to go to some better school? It's just not likely. I'll look at another one. Villanova, 2 transfers out, 3 transfers in, 161 1Ls.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at another one. Florida State, 2 transfers out, 17 transfers in. And then there's a list of all of the schools. They took 4 transfers in from Nova Southeastern University, which I don't believe I've ever even heard of. 2 from Charleston, and then a whole bunch of ones from a bunch of other schools. So that's 17 transfers in. They had 139 people in their 1L class. So some schools take a few more transfers, but that's still not even 15% of their 1L class is getting transferred in as 2Ls. You would have to go somewhere and really kill it. And that's just not likely, even if you go to a bottom feeding regional school. Law school grading is so arbitrary and people work so hard that it's hard to get straight A's. Even if you're like the smartest person in the school, it's hard to get straight A's. Your entire grade is determined by a 3-hour essay exam that the professor grades, on Christmas break.
Yeah.
A huge stack of these exams. And it's just like putting check marks on the page every time you make a good point, then add up the check marks. And then, it's so arbitrary.
Yeah, don't bank on transferring. I will say, will a 2.85 keep you out of a top 50 school?
No,
it won't. Will you need to apply broadly and get a high LSAT score? Yes, you will. Also, don't anchor on this top 50 number like it's some magical thing.
There's a false dichotomy here of top 50 versus regional schools. Yeah. A school like University of Washington is a regional school. A school like Villanova, Florida State, those schools are regional schools. Don't kid yourself. Those schools will try to tell you, they have pretensions of being a national law school. Every school in the top 100 probably considers themselves to be a national law school, but that doesn't mean that they actually have any real national reputation.
Yeah. And if you want an idea of just how fluid the rankings are, or variable the rankings are at that level, check out lsatdemon.com/rankings and pick a school like, I don't know, Nate's alma mater, formerly UC Hastings, now UC Law San Francisco.
Yep.
In a matter of 10 years, it looks like it's been anywhere from, it used to be ranked 39 a few years back. Now it's down to
82.
So
yeah,
and that wasn't a linear drop. It was ups and downs away. It was sometimes it was in the top 50, sometimes it wasn't in the top 50.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of a school that likes to consider itself to be a national law school. They think they have a bigger reputation than they actually do. Truth is, there's a better law school 10 miles away in Berkeley. And there's an even better law school than that within 50 miles at Stanford. And what is Hastings? The 7th, 8th best school in California? And it's definitely a Northern California regional school. There's nothing wrong with that because most law schools are regional schools. Most law schools do prepare people for relatively mundane, worker bee lawyer jobs. Not everybody, they all try to sell this dream of like, well, you're going to be a Supreme Court justice one day. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to be a worker bee doing normal lawyer things. And that's fine. That's okay. It's just, they try to sell something. And all these top 50 schools, the only people that ever talk about top 50 are the schools that are like barely inside the top 50.
Ranked 49. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if they were 24th, they would be talking about the top 25. And if they're 14th, they talk about the top 14. So just don't fall into any of that, Dion. Go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships, put in your GPA, put in various LSAT scores, and see what kinds of schools might make you generous scholarship offers. That'll give you a good idea of the types of schools that you should be applying to. Because the most important thing, Dion, that I can tell you about any of this after this long-winded podcast episode, the most important thing I could tell you, Dion, is that you should go to school at the right price. Price is critical. Stop thinking so much about the rankings. Stop thinking more about the price. You're going to get a JD. How much is that JD going to cost you? If you barely squeak into a top 50 school, I guarantee they're going to charge you full price. So I just don't think that's a good value for you. I think that you should always take a scholarship at a regional school, at a more regional school. Some school lower down the rankings, probably. is going to realize, oh, Dion's the kind of person who could get into Florida State. So I have to give him a scholarship to entice him to come to whatever one of those schools was that do have some transfers into Florida State. But even then, you should plan on graduating from the school you apply to. The school you start at is probably the school that you're going to finish at, because it's real hard to transfer.
Totally.
Wow.
Maybe I need to edit this.
I cut it down a little bit, Speaking and writing are two entirely different things, right?
That is true.
Like, I do like it when writing sounds like how people speak, but people speak in circles. They speak way too wordy. So you should write your first draft the way you speak. Then you should edit the shit out of it, because you're editing for the reader. And when you have time to put it in print, you just should tighten it up. That's not what people listen to podcasts for.
No.
That's my defense.
Thanks, Dion.
Thanks, Dion.
Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.